Hi everybody, Adrian Plass here.
Yes, and Bridget.
And
hello.
welcome warmly to number 276 in Sounding the Shallows.
I wonder why you said warmly. You know, I think it's... Do you realise we are officially now into autumn?
It was an emotional, warmly welcome, not a register
Not
of the
putting your coat on
temperature.
type of a welcome.
No. I was just thinking about last time we were together, and I really enjoyed not resurrecting, but coming back to Andromeda Veal, who, for those who weren't listening, was a little girl in a book called The Horizontal Epistles of Andromeda Veal, which is about a little girl who's in hospital and going through a lot of unhappiness about her family and all the rest of it. And I was thinking there's a bit of it in creating her or inventing her, which I think was to do with a sort of unborn daughter in a way.
I think you said that.
Yeah, I did, and I was thinking about that and how I don't know what I'd imagined. I'd never really known any little girls. And,
well, certainly none like Andromeda.
Well, none like any. No, none like any. It was a strange thought, although I loved the idea of it, and I was very glad to meet Andromeda, although she was a bit strange. It was a bit strange.
I was thinking you said resurrecting Andromeda, and one of the things about Andromeda is, in a way, you did have to resurrect her because she stops aged 8, doesn't she? That's where she is. She doesn't get any older. And interestingly, one of the emails we had about Andromeda said what happened to Andromeda when she grew up. And we were talking about the fact that how old would she have been? She would have been...
What, now?
37, I think it was.
Was it that? I thought it was more than that.
Maybe 47. Anyway, not young.
No.
And who knows how that character would have developed.
Well, her parents were separated, weren't they? And her mother had a very dominant friend.
Glenda, yes.
Glenda. And Andromeda was befriended by Gerald, who is Adrian's son in the book, and also
Auntie
by
Anne, Uncle Adrian, and all
Adrian's
the
wife
church.
and people from the church,
Yeah.
the elder in the church.
Yeah.
So she had quite a lot of friends while she was in hospital. She talked about being an attraction. She was actually on traction, but she had a habit of mishearing and recreating words that she didn't really understand.
It's interesting, isn't it, though, how it's sometimes a mistake for characters to grow up. And one of the things about William Brown, which I know you loved as a boy and as an adult, is that he never grows up, even though he goes through quite a long period of social history and actual history.
Well, he starts
goes through the
back
war.
Long before that. He goes back to, I think 1920, something like that.
Yes.
And so through
With servants
the
in the
period
house
between,
and
people in his class, which was the word used then, would have probably had a maid and a cook
a gardener.
and a gardener. Yeah. So he doesn't grow up. He stays the same age as time passes, and eventually he is alive when the Second World War started.
And even after that.
Yeah. So, and yet he retains qualities that make him William Brown, qualities of stubbornness and loyalty and getting in the way and being a nuisance, but having a tremendous enthusiasm for life.
He might have been quite an unusual adult, Adrian. I don't know.
Might he, yeah.
But I mean, the other question that came with the one about Andromeda was about Gerald, wasn't it? Because it was, and what happened to Gerald? Well, Gerald is 15 in the diaries and very
He's
flippant.
a bit older than that, I think. But yeah.
Well, maybe by the end of the diaries he was 16 or so. He got a band.
Bad news for the devil.
Yes. But in the Andromeda book, his kindness really comes through, his affection and his kindness. But what is he going to be like when he grows? And you did let him grow up, didn't you?
Well, I hope he's not listening to me. He doesn't exist, but I hope he's not listening to me. And because he suddenly became very useful in another sacred diary. Which was,
by then he'd become a vicar.
That was to do with him more or less running
Not
no,
a vicar.
his father was running a church weekend, and Gerald was bringing people from his church because now he is
A vicar.
a vicar, and so
But he's also still very flippant, and,
Yeah.
and that was interesting because you couldn't lose that. It was so much part of him. Still very kind, but still very flippant.
well, some people would say you need to lose flippancy, of course, wouldn't they?
Yeah, maybe.
I think some
Well,
people.
you haven't, so
No,
yeah.
that doesn't actually in itself justify it. Well, no, I suppose I mean, if you're talking about satire, and which is what I've been loosely involved with all these years, and both of us for some time, if you do it from inside, it can have a very positive role. If you do it from outside, it's quite cold. So I don't know if I'd still call it flippancy, but you're quite right. Gerald had to retain who he was,
As you say,
centrally.
also in order to be a useful vehicle for you.
Yeah.
And the idea in that book, The Sacred Diary of Adrian Plass and the Church Weekend, is that the first evening, after all sorts of tangles of the thing actually getting going,
Yeah.
Adrian, in the book, has a chance to spend some time with Gerald. Are you going to read a little bit about what happened to them?
Yeah. Well, Gerald offers to read something that he's written. And at first I think no one's quite sure whether he's going to be serious or not. But he says he's discovered a gospel that was found under a rock in the Middle East, and helpfully it was in English.
An ancient
despite its age.
manuscript.
Ancient manuscript. So he offers for the gathered assembly there at this weekend away to read some extracts.
I
from
thought
the,
it was just to you. I thought it was it to everyone then?
Oh, maybe it was. I
I
don't
think
know.
it was that first evening and
Hold
he
on.
was with you.
I've got it over here. Let me just have a look. Hold on. So yeah.
Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I didn't think it was to everyone. I thought it was.
No, I think you're right. I hate to admit it. No, he
no,
did.
that's fine.
He did. You're right. Yeah, he showed his mum, Anne, and me, or Adrian, his dad, and then you read a few bits. Here's one or two, and it's the Gospel according to Fidibus, who is not mentioned actually in the New Testament. Yeah.
But he was kind of around at the time.
Absolutely.
No,
Yes,
absolutely.
of course. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is Fidibus 2:16 to 18. And the angel Gabriel appeareth unto Simon the fisherman, and he saith unto him, Behold, I bring thee news of great joy, for thou art to bear a son. And immediately Simon fainteth. When he recovereth, the angel saith unto him, Fear not, for there is just a chance I have come to the wrong house. Now, what's interesting about that is, since then I've read that to people, and people laugh, but there is a dimension of uneasiness
I'm not surprised.
because
really.
we're straying into the sacred word of the world of the Word of God, where some people believe every semicolon is dictated by the Holy Spirit. We're
we're not straying very far, are we?
Well,
I mean,
we
you
love-
mentioned the angel Gabriel.
Yeah,
and
no,
the wrong
no.
house. I'm
No,
not
but
sure.
there's a sort of ridiculousnly about it that
Oh, yeah.
some people might think takes away from the. Anyway, I'll read one or two more just to give you more flavour of it. Me, I love it, of course. Right, Fidibus 12:16. Later in that same day, Jesus picketh an pink flower, and he sticketh it in his hair. It looketh weird, but nice. Another piece of completely useless information. The whole point about Fidibus is that he has noted the things that don't get noted in the four Gospels. And possibly my favourite bits of the bits that were written is concerns Martha and Mary, of course, who were great friends of Jesus in the house that he visited. So, Fidibus 16:1-3. And Jesus goeth into the house of Martha and Mary at Bethany. And Martha saith unto him, Do you want an egg? Jesus replied, Verily I say unto thee, I shall not eat another egg until I do you want an egg? Martha interrupteth. Jesus saith, Verily the sons of perdition shall eat eggs in the age that is to come, but the son, do you or do you not want an egg? Jesus replied, What? Oh, yeah, 2 please, yeah, lightly boiled, about 3 minutes, with a few soldiers. Conscientious objectors, made of unleavened bread. Can I have the burnt bit scraped off? Thank you, cheers. Where was it? Oh, yes. Verily I say unto thee, and plenty of salt on the side in a little pile. Magic. No, not magic. I mean, great. So there's more of that. And one of the serious aspects of it, for me anyway, is somehow, as we've tried to do a lot over the years, to draw people back to the person of Jesus, of whose life we do know something. We do know where he was born, something about crises that happened after that, and
we don't know a lot.
No,
I mean, we search for the
amount.
moments when he felt tired or grumpy, or where we could connect, really. And I think for a lot of us, all of those little bits are important, but they're not really focused on. So Philippus, in a sort of stupid Adrian way, or Gerald way, I should say, kind of allows you into those bits that are not
That's
there.
right, yeah. I mean, there's one bit we can identify with, of course, is where, I mean, they go off to the festival, don't they, where obviously there are hundreds of people. And Jesus just disappears when he's a boy. And eventually, after 3 days of searching, I mean, just imagine that, we've spent a day searching for one of our children in the past. They discover him in the temple talking like an adult to the people there, the wise men there, and holding a conversation that's beyond belief. And his mother says to him what many, many parents have said to many, many children. She says, Why have you done this to us? And what is interesting, I think, is that the sort of the thing most people believe about Jesus is that he didn't actually sin. I'm not sure where you go with that.
Well, and you could argue he wasn't actually sinning then, as he points out to his mother. Mother, he says he, I was doing my father's, in my father's house, basically working.
That's right, yeah.
But, yeah.
At that point, I think whether his father took him one side and spoke to him, I don't know, but I think he might have said, look, I thought you did very well. I mean, you spoke well in there, and well done for that. But your mother and father are the ones who are looking after you now. You are 12. Just go home and behave yourself and wait till the right time comes for what has to be done. I don't know. Anyway, so we do know that. But the next bit, I guess.
I mean, I can understand there is always a worry, isn't there, when you take something and you expand it within your own imagination, that you might be getting it wrong. And I know, I mean, the film Chosen has been so popular because it allows Jesus to come to life in a way that most films in the past haven't. But there's always that worry that you might be putting words into Jesus' mouth, and therefore he never gets any words put into his mouth, and that's why sometimes he sounds so sort of, I don't know, what word, not pompous, but kind of detached from the people he's with. And yet you can feel it in so many situations where there is that compassion is a bigger word than maybe affection or just caring. It's why we all love the words "his heart went out to her," because we understand that when you look at somebody.
To the widow of Nain.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad Gerald was allowed to grow up. There's a wonderful situation where he and Adrian go off to a Christian summer festival, which you write about. It was lovely. The family, again, I use the word resurrected, they popped back up in Still Crazy, didn't they, when they were going to a festival, and he gave
sure,
you an
yeah.
opportunity to look at a few of the things that some of us have experienced in extremely long talks based on something that you will never understand, and you're not sure why you're there, etc., etc. But yeah.
Yeah, it's in an odd sort of way, deep in my heart, I think I feel slight guilt towards Gerald.
Oh,
Because
why?
Well, because he became so real to me at the times when I was writing about him.
Because he was mainly like you, of course.
I suppose so. Yes.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, somebody once said, how could the Adrian Plass of the diaries have written the Sacred Diary? And the answer is, of course, he couldn't, because he's well-meaning, but not very, yeah. So, in a way, I think Gerald's combination, maybe, yeah.
But I also, having reached this age, you and I now have reached an age where you become quite thoughtful about a lot of things, I think, and the whole business of growing up seems to me quite significant. I mean, we used to say, as everybody does, what will you be when you grow up? And
yes, it's so strange, isn't it? As a child, you assume there is this line where you will be grown up, you will have decided what you will be when you're grown up, and you'll get on with being it because you're grown up.
But we know, don't we, having had children, that one of the reasons that always goes wrong or right, depending on how you look at it, is that you return to the best possible version of yourself, if you can, to let your children inherit the best of that. You don't see what I mean? I mean, you don't go on being the worst of yourself, or letting you. Well, maybe some people do, but I mean, you would make an effort to do that. But I do think.
So, do you think that you go on and on, growing up, if you like? I mean, one of the things that we were talking about is the child's Jesus that stays nice and comfortably. Rather like Andromeda stays being 8, the Jesus you first meet. If that's as far as you go with it, and you don't allow any of the difficult bits that he said, or any of the challenging bits that he went through to impinge on your life, are you really going to grow up? I'm not sure. Or are you just going to stay with a nice, and then maybe feel you should grow out of it because it's not grown? Am I talking nonsense?
Grow
it's
out of
not
what?
grown. Well, I think a lot of people feel that they grow out. They have the Jesus stories when they're young. They hear about the creation and all that. And then they feel that in a sensible world you grow out of it. And maybe if it hasn't grown in you and grown up with you. Am I talking nonsense, or is that...
No, I think it's really, really important. I know that I mentioned it before, and I won't go into it in detail, but of somebody who said to me, of course, you Christians, you're not worried about dying, you just go, because you're going to glory, within inverted commas. Well, part of the growing up part of understanding what Jesus went through and how he really was, are to understand what Tom Wright says, if you don't think Jesus doubted his own divinity, you haven't understood the New Testament. I know we've said that many times before. I think that's another
about 10 conversations. But
it is. But he went through very difficult times, and probably hit situations where this constantly trying to avoid temptation became a real burden for him, and yet he went on with it, and by the time he got to the end and he got to Gethsemane, and it says his grief was so great that it almost crushed him.
So you're suggesting that even within Jesus there was, I mean, growing up is probably not the right, development is maybe a better word, that through the resistance of temptations, that was part of him being able to go, is that what you're saying? Part of the resilience that as a man he develops in order to be able to...
I think that what he did, and I don't pretend to be the only person in the universe who understands exactly what he did in
really?
terms...
Sorry.
But what I think he did as a man.
I know.
And
Well, yeah, we know that.
one
really.
of the things
Yeah.
that's part of my growing up about Jesus is because when I was first was a Christian, there was such a weight on the fact that he was both man and God that it was very hard to imagine how he could function in either of those roles if those were really true.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid the word magic has been given a bad name in church circles, but it's actually a great word, really. The magic nature of what happened with Jesus in this world is that he was able to be a true man. And therefore, when it came to the difficult times, he suffered through those, I think, and went into situations where he had no clear idea of where he was going to be at the other side of them. And that's probably how he always was.
But there must have been a reason why he had to resist these the big temptations that we learn about early on. That there must have been a reason for it. That must have meant that he needed to build the ability to resist temptation.
Yes, I do, and I think one of the things we lack in the teaching in the church is practice. Because there's such an emphasis on God will do it, the Holy Spirit will do it, they'll do it, it'll happen. You pray, you do this. Actually, a lot of any change that has happened in me, and I think it's true of you also, that you're presented with choices every day, really, and you practice it. You practice looking at what those are.
It's a funny thought, isn't it?
Making that choice.
That was part of what happened with Jesus. It's quite a thought that. What do you mean? He was kind of practicing being able to resist it, so that it became more and more part of him.
Well, of course, because
we talk about change within us, don't we?
Yeah.
And that is something that often we're unlikely to see in ourselves, but it's just possible somebody else would. That by not. It's so hard though, because as soon as you talk about practicing, it's almost putting yourself under massive pressure, and we don't want that either for ourselves or anyone else.
No, but that's because we start too high.
Yeah.
We start with saying we've got to become people who never do this, or we always do that.
And therefore we're set to fail.
What God is saying, there's going to be a couple of little things coming along this morning.
Yes.
Have a good look at them. See what you feel about it. I think he would say, I think you'll see what the better one is, and ask yourself, can I do that? And if I can't, why? What is the problem with that?
Well, to start with, do I want to do it?
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah.
We'd so love to hear from you. What do you feel about this? I mean, do you think we're on the right track? It's a big subject, really. Do you think Andromeda should have been allowed to grow up?
I don't know.
Do you like Gerald?
Do we think Do we think Jesus should have been allowed to grow up past 33 or whatever it was?
Of course.
He could have given up the whole thing and had a little church and done some
on
good
that
work.
note, yeah.
No, it'd be interesting to hear what people think. Yeah. So thank you for listening to us today.